2 years ago, I realised that I wasn't really reading for fun anymore. And so I set myself a goal of reading 22 books in 2022. And I think I read over 30. And then last year in 2023, I read almost 40 books. But while reflecting on what I read last year, I realised that it's been over 7 years since I read Harry Potter. And Harry Potter is the series that got me into reading in the first place. I struggled with reading a lot growing up, and it wasn't until I actually found something that I was interested in and obsessed with enough to overcome the hurdle of learning how to read. I could barely read, yet within 4 months I had finished the series. I went from the lowest reading level in my class to one of the highest, and I was set. I was off, I was racing, and I read everything under the sun. And Harry Potter remained a deep love of mine for years. Today is the day we start with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's so much smaller than I remember it. I still find it so funny that they changed Philosopher to Sorcerer's Stone in America. Like, come on. Okay, a child might not know what a philosopher is, but if you replace the word with sorcerer, they're never gonna see it and they're never gonna learn what it is. Like, the Philosopher's Stone, it's an actual thing. J.K. Rowling didn't make it up. And my copy has a young Dumbledore. Well, it's a young wizard, but most of the ones I see have an old wizard. My friend's got an old wizard on her copy, but look at this young wizard. I'm so excited. It is so hot. I forgot how sassy Harry was. Like this line, Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. But my favourite line so far is just a simple, but on the edge of town, drills were driven out of his mind by something else. But there's so much I've forgotten. And it's crazy to me how much happens in like 3 pages. You know, which is what children's books do, but so much happens without all the fluff and stuff and blah 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 blah. At least in this first book. Like, the books I'm reading now, there are so many pointless lines. And sometimes it adds to the prose and it makes really beautiful poetic poetic imagery and everything. But often it's just fluff. And you've got to slog through, and I skip half of it anyway, and I have no idea what place or setting actually looks like because I don't bother reading it. But I do remember as a child, like, imagining the shack on the island that they row out to as being this massive room. Like, I never watched the movies until I had read each book. I was terrified of movies growing up. I just couldn't deal with it. So once I read the book, I could watch the movie. So I didn't have my imagination altered really in any way by the movies. And even though I read like a small 2-room shack, like, I pictured that at the start, but as soon as Hagrid comes like kicking down the door, I don't imagine this like giant man taking up the whole room. I just imagine like this grand empty boathouse, like where they would make a boat or store like a massive boat, falling to pieces, but like this big stone fireplace. And I just remember like the couch. I just remember imagining like this couch that Hagrid's broken, and little Harry standing there. But like, it's a massive place. But no, it's actually just a 1-room, 2-room shack. Anyway, I'm excited, but I'm gonna go to bed now and keep reading tomorrow. So I finished The Philosopher's Stone last night, and I'm about to start Chamber of Secrets. I remember disliking the second book the most, so I think it's still going to probably be my least favourite of the series. But, I mean, it's Harry Potter, so my least favourite is still, I still love it, so I'm going to start. So I finished Chamber of Secrets. I really hate how much Harry has to put up with. Seriously, in this book, particularly the first half, it's just non-stop. People being mean to him, not trusting him, like taking jabs at him. It's just never ending. And I know it only gets worse from here. I was really surprised at all the references I now spot. Even things like the Vanishing Cabinet at Borgenberg's and at Hogwarts. And actually it gets broken in the second book, and then Draco has to spend 6th repairing it. The necklace that Draco uses to curse is already there in Borgenberg's, already referenced in the book. Like, I haven't read the series or watched any of the movies in about 8 years, but my love of Harry Potter isn't even so much the characters, it's just the world and what you can do with that and the stories that can inhabit it. I've read a lot of Marauder fanfiction because I love the Marauders' dynamic and times at school so much more, and all the creative ideas people have about what it could have been. Anyway, I am really loving reading these books again, and I'm on to the third. I'm already a quarter of the way through. Alright. I've actually finished The Prisoner of Azkaban and I'm on to The Goblet of Fire. It is so nice reading these books again, but my one thought is just give Harry a break. Oh my god, just the poor child. He does not get many happy moments. Now, it has been a while since I read the last books, obviously, but after reading these 3 books, I still firmly stand by my statement that Snape is awful and never redeems himself. He's not, you know, a hero. Like, he does some heroic stuff, but he's never not an awful person. My best friend and I, we talk about this a few times, about how we both agree that Snape, he is a nightmare. He's not a good person, and he never is a good person. Even when he's acting as a double agent, he's only doing it out of personal guilt over the fact that he's killed someone that he loved. And not even that he loved her, he was obsessed with her. He was quite happy for her whole family to die as long as she didn't, because he could still somehow potentially persuade her to be with him even after killing her whole family, because he was that deranged. But the fact that he's not now fighting for the good because he believes in the greater good, no. It's all entirely personal reasons, and it remains like that the whole time through the book. The only time he redeems himself, in my eyes, is in The Cursed Child. I went and watched the plays when I was in London last year, and he does redeem himself in that play, in the alternate future where Voldemort wins. He is one of the last 3 members of the Order of the Phoenix, Ron, Hermione, and Snape, because in this reality, he now believes that killing Muggleborns and killing Muggles is wrong. And so even though he could live a cushy, comfortable life that he's been aiming towards the whole time in the actual series of the book, before Lily's death, in that reality, he redeems himself. And he actually dies in order to make sure that becomes true in the reality that Scorpius and Albus are from. He dies for that. That is a heroic, wow, he has truly redeemed himself. I might change my perspective when I do get to the last books, but I don't think I am wrong. Snape does not redeem himself in the actual Harry Potter series, and I don't count The Cursed Child as an actual J.K. Rowling book. That is entirely fan fiction. It's great if you watch the play as fan fiction. It's really actually quite awesome. But as an actual truth of what happens next in the series as a sequel, no, it doesn't count. But to end my rant, Snape is still an awful bugger who only does things for himself. Can we just, the amount he bullies Hermione, who is another version of Lily in many regards, Muggle-born, brilliant, top of the classes, and Neville, who he doesn't like because if Voldemort had thought it was Neville, Lily would still be alive and he wouldn't be riddled with guilt. But anyway, I have finished, and now I'm on to the Goblet of Fire. So I'm really getting into the beefy books now, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I have finally finished The Order of the Phoenix after about a month, 2 weeks of which I didn't pick up the book at all. But I have finally finished it, and I have a lot of thoughts about rereading Harry Potter and the series again. While Harry Potter always has such a special place in my heart, rereading this probably actually wasn't really the smartest idea, because I've just become so frustrated at the characters and the plot. So much of it's just like, oh, it's such a annoying thing for this character to be like that. Well, all the responsibility and burden's got to fall on the main character to make them the main character. But how incompetent do the people around Harry have to be in order for this to be true? But this book does have one of my favourite quotes that I remember loving as a child, and it's from Fred and George when Hermione's like pestering them and asking them about where they got their money to start the Weasley Wizard Weasleys, I don't know. And I think Fred says, "Ask us no questions and we'll tell you no lies." And I just love that quote. But the character development of certain characters like Snape, as I was ranting about before, just like, he's a great character. He's such a brilliant antagonist, and he does feel so real, but he is awful. He starts seeing Harry's memories and he starts trying to teach Harry occlumency, and he literally gets to see inside the mind of a 15-year-old and witness the trauma this boy has gone through as an infant at the hands of his aunt and uncle and cousin, and then all through his Hogwarts life. And yet he has no kindness or acknowledgement that Harry is not his father. It's just no. And can also, how does no one notice that Harry's got a massive scar across his hand that says, "I must not tell lies"? McGonagall and Hermione and everyone gets so angry that the other characters can't control their anger and emotions when they're being picked at constantly by the Slytherins and others. No, you must be the bigger person, you must rein yourself in, you must do this. And when they snap, even just lightly, they get reprimanded so heavily. And yet, other people do things blatantly and they're just not held anywhere near that standard. And this kind of really annoys me deeply from my childhood. Just makes me think about those kids in school who would never listen, were always being naughty and always doing crap. And so the one time that they were good, they were showered in praise and they got special prizes for acting correctly. And yet, as someone who always acted correctly and tried their best not to get in trouble and did really well generally, that was just the expectation, and so you weren't given any award or praise or anything because that was just what you're expected to do. And it's really cool that she's able to get that emotion out of me, but it just frustrates me so much reading, and I forgot so much about this book, and it just took my emotions for a spin that I wasn't prepared for. Also, it's quite funny coming back to this years later and just so much detail that I've completely missed and have never thought about since I read it once as a child. And I think that's what made Harry Potter so successful, is that it's such a vast, complex, different world that's also integrated within reality, but it allows other people to be so creative and to bounce off the ideas that J.K. Rowling first gave everyone. But also, occlumency, like the study of occlumency and mind reading and protecting your mind, is literally meditation. Like, Harry's asked to sit there and clear his mind and do it repeatedly throughout the day and do it definitely before he goes to bed. And that is literally meditation, just to sit and try and clear your mind and strengthen your mind in that way and focus your mind so it doesn't wander. It's just meditation. It's so cool. I love it. As a child, I do remember picking up the books and just rereading my favourite chapters or sections over and over again. And so my favourite section from this book is probably the sequence after, the sequence of Fred and George leaving. All the shenanigans that everyone gets up to after they leave, because it's the only point in the book where you kind of feel united, like Hogwarts feels united. Harry is no longer being attacked, he's believed, and everyone is standing up against Umbridge and everything like that. And the magic that they do and the fun and jokes that are pulled, it just makes the book and all that Harry goes through worth it. But yeah, it does really annoy me. So many of these characters I just find frustrating. Like, why are you acting like that? I know it makes sense in terms of your character, but seriously, why? Just, do you ever grow, or do you ever just learn from your mistakes? And I think the only characters like I truly love without that annoyance every time I read them is Ginny and Luna, honestly. Anyway, I need to read 6 and 7 now, and then I'll move on to a new series. So just like with the previous book, I put off reading The Half-Blood Prince for a month. The first time I picked it up, I read like a quarter of it. I just spent, I don't know, like 2 2 hours reading and I read a quarter of it. And then I did not touch it for weeks and weeks. And then today, I don't know, I was in a weird mood and I decided to bring it along with me to uni, which probably wasn't the smartest choice because I'm not sure how much work I got done. But this morning, maybe 2 days ago, I was here. And this morning, had Katie been cursed? I don't think so. So maybe I was still... Did I honestly read all of that today? I spent an hour reading something else as well. I definitely read half the book today. And yet I feel like I didn't spend much of my time actually reading this book, which makes me a bit concerned for the amount of time I spend reading stories online. I don't know how many of those stories I've read, but they are sometimes like full-length novels, and I swear I sometimes read more than one a day. If I actually spent that time reading the books on my massive TBR that I want to get through this year, I'd probably already be a million books through. But I finally finished this one. In this book, I had a lot more sympathy for Hermione than I did in the last two, and for all the characters. I don't know, it mellowed out a bit and they didn't change in any substantial way. They still reacted the same to many circumstances. But perhaps Harry's actions differed, or maybe it's just like a newfound sense of confidence in his exerting of himself. But I liked it so much more. I could deal with it, you know? So it's time to read the final one, and hopefully this won't also take me a month, because there are many books that I want to read this year, and yet it feels like we're almost halfway through and I've been stuck rereading Harry Potter for the whole year. I think I'm gonna actually read some tonight because I feel like it. Let's just say it's taken me 4 months to reread these books. But I read this book in one day. It's been a weird experience rereading something that used to mean a lot to me as a child. I mean, can you tell I was obsessed? Really? I think I was obsessed. I made my own pick me puff. I have a full Hogwarts outfit. I have my beautiful wand. I was obsessed. I had a Harry Potter themed birthday party. I made chocolate frog cards, Bertie Bott's every flavour beans. We made 12 full-size broomsticks for my friends and I to ride around on and play a fake game of Quidditch, and then I gave them the broomstick to take home. I think they might have even been like laser engraved with Nimbus 2000. And as a child, Harry Potter was just so much fun. I mean, it's the series that taught me how to read. I could not read any book before I started Harry Potter. About halfway through rereading this, I thought that I'd probably made a mistake. I was like, why did I reread this? I'm not enjoying myself. And this is taking months. There's so many other things that I want to read. The Harry Potter I constructed in my head is just not what the stories are. But there's just a lot of detail of the actual like world of magic that I kind of never really noticed before. And that's what I loved this time, more so than any of the characters. Very, very surprisingly, my contempt for Snape has like dropped a notch. I still full-heartedly believe in what I said before when I was in the middle of reading this, but maybe slightly towards the end you were a little bit remorseful. Not really in a way that truly counts, you know, because everything you were doing was self-serving. Anyway, my reservations aside, he is a truly phenomenal character. Love the character Snape in just his complexity. I hope you had a fun time watching. No matter how old I get, I think they'll always hold a very special place in my heart. And the fact that words and books can do that, can reshape the way I think, can change enormous parts of me, it's just why I love reading so much. And I honestly can't believe that I read this in a day. It I didn't even spend the day reading. I just read this around university and training for triathlons and everything. Anyway, I should probably end this video here because I have so much footage over the last 4 months to go through of me reading this book. And thanks again for sticking around and watching me relive a part of my childhood.